We might get started. I just want to say once again, thank you so much to everyone who is joining us today and who'll be watching this session, our community of practice, on replay. Firstly, love to actually acknowledge the lands in which we are and our First Nations people. I just quickly read out a short statement or poem. So I just want to say that we honour the sacred lands on which we live, work and grow. At Meaningful Aging Australia, and I'm sure shared by many of you, we take this more than a protocol, but it's a promise. Promise to walk gently, listen deeply and learn differently, to lead with humility and heart, to uphold the right of First Nations people to self-determination and truth-telling, to centre relational ways of being, knowing and doing, and to create spaces where culture is not a checkbox but a living, breathing presence, honoured, shared and fiercely protected. So I want to give thanks to Country, our first teacher. May we always act in ways that honour her generosity and never forget that every step we take is part of a larger story. And with that in mind, I would love to welcome our very special guest, Craig. And in particular, that statement there of that acknowledgement of Country about forgetting, never forgetting that every step we take is part of a larger story, and that Country is a living, breathing presence. So just to introduce Rob, I should say Rob, sorry, I apologize if I mentioned an incorrect name there. Rob is an ecologist, an educator and an evidence-based decision-making specialist with over 30 years experience pioneering environmental reform and advancing the global connection between nature, health and well-being. And today's session, we are considering the idea that simply being in a forest can aid relaxation and well-being, and this increasing body of evidence that's supporting this. And given that universality and ease of application, things like forest therapy is taking off as a practice that addresses some of these main kind of health issues that the modern industrial world is kind of grappling with. So I'm delighted to welcome Rob as he talks to us about why being with nature makes us feel so good. Warm welcome to you, Rob. Hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, and welcome along everyone today. I'm really happy to be here. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm just going to try and sync some music to the slides. So just give me a second if you can, please, while I do this. I'm looking through that old camper box. Those old things only make you cry when you dream upon that funny grass. Makes you think of life that's passed you by. There are days when you wish the world would stop, but then you know some wounds would never. When I browse the early pages of the children, then I know exactly how you feel. Hey, it's July and the winter sun is shining, and the Cootamundra wattle is my friend. All at once my childhood never left me. Wattle blossom springing back. It's Sunday and you should stop the worry. Come out here and sit down in the sun. Can't you hear the magpies sing? Don't you feel the new day has begun? Can't you hear the bees making honey in the spotted gums where the bellbirds ring? You might grow old,
it will come to the steam. Now some people never hear such thing. Hey, it's July and the winter sun is shining, and the cooterman drew one with my friend. All at once my childhood never left me. Bottle blossom springing back.
I'll just can everyone still hear me there? Yep, terrific. The Cootamundra wattle is my friend. For all at once, my childhood never left me, 'cause wattle blossoms bring it back again. Some of us might be familiar with that beautiful song by John Williamson, and it's a beautiful way to describe the role that nature can play in reflecting and reminiscing about our own life experiences. G'day, I'm Rob Richards, and I'm the director of It's Naturally You, and I'm really happy to be here today to talk with you about something that I'm really passionate about, and that is nature-based interventions to improve health and well-being. As a trained ecologist, I spent 20 years working in the outback, and in that time, the connection with nature that led me to spend almost a decade researching the global evidence base on this relationship between mental health and well-being and what we now call nature connection. For the last 8 years, we've taken this knowledge and infused it into programs that we've run with families, schools, multicultural communities, senior citizens, and most recently in aged care settings and hospitals. So let me take you on a quick scoot around the world of nature-based interventions. When I first started working with Indigenous people in the outback, it made so much sense to me that they did not see themselves as separate entities from the land. They are one. Indigenous people from around the world have a deep spiritual relationship that links their identity, culture, and well-being to the land, waters, and seas. Human connection to nature is grounded in our DNA through our coexistence with nature for over 300,000 years as modern man. And we're now starting to understand how and why it makes us feel good, just how nature manifests itself in our spiritual, mental, and physical being. So like a religious faith, a spiritual belief, nature provides a sense of comfort, companionship, purpose, connection, and hope. And intuitively, we know we feel good in nature, and particularly when we're removed from the stresses of modern day life. So why does nature make us feel good? Is it the fact that nature doesn't judge? It doesn't matter who we are, how much money, what religion, sexual preference, colour of skin, fashion sense, or cognitive ability we have. We can be who we truly are in nature without judgment, stigma, or embarrassment. Aside from our intuitive feelings, a rapidly accumulating body of evidence over the last 50 years is telling us more about this human to nature connection. In 1984, American biologist Edward Wilson published the theory of biophilia. This theory says that humans possess an innate tendency to seek connections with nature and other forms of life. A few years later, two psychologists, Rachel and Stephen Kaplan, posed the attention restoration theory that says that mental fatigue and concentration can be improved by time spent in or looking at nature. The capacity of the brain to focus on specific stimuli or tasks is limited and often results in direct attention fatigue. Later on, Roger Ulrich posed a psychoevolutionary theory of stress reduction theory, that nature exposure can reduce psychological and physiological stress, promote improved outcomes, and foster increased performance on high-order cognitive tasks requiring flexibility in thinking and creative problem solving. In the last few decades, the science has really been playing catch up to our intuitive and instinctual relationships with nature, where literally hundreds of studies have given us a much greater understanding of things such as the effectiveness of different settings in nature and the type of interactions with nature, the frequency and duration of our exposure to nature, passive versus active interactions, the influence of personal characteristics. And we know this is so important if we're developing programs for person-centered care approaches. Also, the role of nature in reminiscing, nature-based interventions with those living with a dementia. Studies have shown us time and time again that nature-based interventions reduce stress and improve mood, reduce anxiety and depression. They enhance cognitive function, increase feelings of self-worth and well-being, and reduce loneliness and increase social connectivity. So today, many of you might be aware, doctors in many countries of the world are swapping pills for parks and prescribing time in nature, these so-called green prescriptions, and they're having remarkable results. Nature-based interventions are multi-sensory activities designed to engage participants with different aspects of nature to improve their health and well-being. But it's not just a walk in the park, pardon the pun, because we are retraining our senses using specific activities to engage with the natural stimuli that nature provides. And we know that this has a big influence on the well-being benefits. So in nature connection, it's not minutes that matter, but moments. Some of the activities that are commonly used, certainly activities that we use, are things like sensory nature trials. These can be just short walks, and we aim to use as many different stimuli as possible to engage all of the senses. Horticultural therapy, developing gardens. We know that acts like preparing soil, planting, growing, caring for plants, and harvesting are all really important. They provide a connection to the cycle of life. Reminiscing, just like the song we heard, the Cootamundra Wattle, natural objects can be used to reminisce. And this is something that we do a lot in one of the core activities that we do, which is nature journaling. This is a really beautiful activity where the process of taking a natural object, and that can be found by the person or it can be provided by family or friends, and we tell a story, use that natural object as a form of triggering happy memories about time spent in nature. The process can also be used to influence feelings of place connection, which is something which is really beneficial, particularly when people move into aged care facilities. So we can use local objects. It might be flowers or trees or birds around, and people can begin to connect with those things, hence giving them place connection. You can see here in a couple of pages of a nature journal the types of things that we engage with. One of the activities is called Noticing 3 Good Things in Nature. And this is something that's been developed by Professor Miles Richardson at Derby University, who's probably one of the world leaders in nature-based interventions. And it's a really lovely but simple exercise where people, they notice things in nature every day. And we've seen already in our work in aged care that over time, people's capacity to notice more detailed things increases. So at the start, it was noticing things like clouds and wind and rain. And then after several weeks, it was much more detailed. It was noticing what plants were flowering, noticing insects, birds nesting, what sort of birds were they. So nature journal is a really beautiful activity. The other sorts of things that we engage people with in the nature journaling are the sensory things. So we have a page for people to write down or draw or stick things in of things that they love to feel in nature, or smell in nature, or hear perhaps in nature. And it's also important that we do capture from people what they don't like in nature. People obviously have fears and phobias. One of the things that's really critical in implementation is the monitoring, reviewing, and adjusting essentially the activities or the programs. Nature connection really is as individual as you are. So people interact and relate differently to nature. So everyone's had different experiences in their past, and those experiences have really shaped, I guess, their feelings for nature. So it's really important that we understand, as I said before, whether people do have fears or phobias. Some of these are rational and some aren't, but none the same. They still have the same effect. So it's really important that we understand them. One of the little measures that we use, that's a published method, as you can see in the image there on the right, is we try and understand the change over time with people in terms of how they see nature relating to them. So it's called the inclusion of nature in self scale. And as you can see, we have a green ring, a bit like a frisbee there on the right, that we hold up. And then we explain to people that the pink ring is themselves, and what sort of overlap do they see that they have between nature and self? Is it totally separate, or is there some overlap? Or for some people, it's almost a complete overlap. But what's important for us is to measure this over time, and so through our programs, we can measure people's beliefs and thoughts about how they perceive themselves and their relationship to nature. It's also really important that we measure success in programs really according to the different cognitive and physical capabilities that people have. So we can't use the same measures, for instance, for people living with dementia, as opposed to when we're working maybe with retirees. So it's really important that we think about that. So I'd say, yeah, if you're wanting to use nature-based interventions, then you can start now. You can do it. There's so much evidence that's available, and so it's really important to think about, what is it you want to do, and then seek out some of the studies that are relevant to your situation, whether that be elderly and aged care settings or not. Thinking about cultural backgrounds, access to nature, those sorts of things. And the great thing is about nature connection is that everything's already around you already. So we can use the resources that you've already got. It may be gardens within an aged care facility, or it may be nearby green spaces. And the thing is about nature, you don't have to embed yourself in the Amazon rainforest to have nature connection experiences. It can be on small scales. It can be with plants. It can be with an individual flower. So nature is all around, and we can already start using what's all around. As I said before, designing activities, the monitoring and evaluation according to the physical and cognitive capabilities of your participants is really important. And particularly in terms of providing person-centered care. So the other thing is that we always talk about, and I know it's very pertinent. There's this whole issue of balancing risk versus rewards, and there's a lot of barriers, I guess, that we've seen in regards to what those risks are for taking people outdoors, and particularly in aged care settings. Risk of falls, obviously, temperature extremes. And I guess in our experiences, and certainly what a lot of the research says around the world, is it's really important to balance that risk, because the rewards are great. And certainly in our experience, we know that we can do activities outdoor with people in a safe and caring way, that it has managed risk around it. But we know that there are large potential benefits. So just a couple of the take homes today. Yeah, nature-based interventions are real. Every day there seems to be new papers that are being published, and there's a significant amount of science to back up intuitively what we know, and there's new studies around the world every day. So we know that there's a really wide array of health benefits that come from nature connections, and they include the physical, mental, spiritual, and social. Nature-based interventions aim to provide this multi-sensory stimulation to engage all our senses, and we can design programs to achieve more or less of that in terms of, once again, according to the capabilities of the people that we're working with. Many interventions have been used with great success, including the ones that I mentioned earlier on. And it's really also important to think about that monitoring and evaluation and how we adjust as we move through programs in the information that we're gaining. It's critical to be able to do that. Just a final point. I will be delving into nature connection in a much deeper dive next week on Wednesday from 9:30 to 12:30 with a seminar being put on by Aged and Healthcare Education, and we'll put the link up for people to see. If anyone's got any questions, that'd be great.
Thank you so much, Rob. I'm sure that people have got lots of questions.
I think you're on mute, Rachel, are you? Or
Oh, can you hear me? Yes. Oh, okay, you can. But Rob, are you able to hear me? Perhaps not for Rob. All right, for those in the room, I'm just wanting to obviously engage your questions now for Rob. So if you want to think, put your hands up to ask a question. Or unmute yourself. Looks like everyone's having a bit of a think.
I still can't hear you, Rachel, unfortunately.
Ah, okay.
Hi, Rachel. I've popped a question in the chat.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I can't hear you,
And
Rachel.
so has Kathleen.
Fabulous. Okay. Thank you so much, Sal and Kathleen. So what we might do is try and get a hold of Rob. It seems like he can't hear us now. So what I might do is I might see if we can try and raise him on the mobile to let him know, and even if he can talk to the questions in the chat with him.
I can hear you now. Great.
Oh, perfect. We were just strategizing how to reconnect with you.
All good. Not sure what happened there. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. So we've got a couple of lovely questions for you. One here from Kathleen, and she says, can you please give an example of measuring improvement for individuals who are exposed to nature interventions? And also one from Sally after that, what can we do for people with severe hay fever? Really good question.
Yeah,
Both
that's
really good questions.
Yeah. So improvement there. Look, one of the things that we really try and look at is this improvement.
Rob, if you can hear us, your sound is gone. No.
Can you hear me now?
Now, back.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yep. So look, in terms of looking at improvements, so certainly things like the scale that I showed you there about inclusion in nature itself, we can look progressively at that over time. The other things that we look at are things like change in mood. So there's a whole bunch of different scales that we can look at in terms of mood, which are really important. And then other observations that we can make. So they include, things like changes in behaviours, improved sleep, improved appetite. There's a whole range of things. And then I guess what we now know from the research is that we know that if we can see improvements in some of those areas, they lead on to other outcomes, reduced dependency on drugs, a better behaviours, a whole lot of other things. So yeah, and I guess this is where the research is in the world at the moment, is looking at what these measures are for us to be able to determine these improvements over time. The hay fever one's a good one, yeah. And you know what, nature connection is not for everyone, we really need to be aware of that. So when we're working with participants, we really need to understand often their history, and so that we don't essentially expose them to something that's going to cause more harm than good. And if hay fever is a problem, then really we need to be bringing nature to them and doing activities when it's really not safe for them to be outside.
And Rob, I'm not sure if you can see another lovely question we've got from Carolyn. I'm interested in how you measure and evaluate well-being for people with cognitive decline.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. So the measures that we've been using are really observations, essentially. So when we're undertaking our programs and doing sensory work with people with cognitive decline, it might simply be something about their engagement. It might be a smile. It might be their interaction with an object. Feeling or reaching out for an object. So we're really just, observing, I guess, those simple things in interactions. But it's a really good question, and it's one that we, are really wanting to understand a lot more about. It's really important. Moments that matter. Are so critical.
Wonderful. Very good. So Rob, just whilst we're waiting to see if we've posed a few more questions for you, I just wanted to ask you personally as to how you came into this work. What drew you into this space?
Yeah, well, as I said, Rachel, I as a child I was always brought up running around the bush, and then essentially I pursued a career in nature. And the 20 years that I had working out in the outback, often solo, which wouldn't happen these days, just camping in a wagon in very remote places, it enabled me to build up a real respect for nature, not only for safety, but also, I guess, in terms of my curiosity, understanding, looking at animals and animal tracks, and understanding so much more about sort of how to read the landscape. And then I thought, well, this is so important. I've always used it for my mental health. That we really need to be looking at what the global research is. And after we'd done that, Rachel and the team, it was like, we shouldn't be just having this as an academic exercise. This is something that we really need to share with people, and this is something that people need to be able to take part in. So that's when we started developing the programs. Was really using that knowledge.
Amazing. Oh, it's fantastic. Not sure, Rob, if you can see the chat there. We've got another one here. What is the main risks other than wild animals?
Yeah, well, we try not to go places where there's large carnivores. Having said that, I guess one thing we do need to be aware of, when we are working in public areas or parklands, actually are dogs that are off leash, can cause issues. The main risks, I would say, is not actually understanding the individual, and not understanding what their fears and phobias may be. Not everyone loves nature. Some people don't like birds, and a feather will make them feel very uncomfortable. Other people have phobias of things like snakes and spiders, etc., or bats or whatever. So it's really about understanding, yes, the individual and their characteristics and their likes and dislikes. I think you're muted, Rachel.
We're really doing well with sound today. Sorry about that. I was going to say it might be a really great opportunity for us in the next sort of half an hour to perhaps do a breakout room and talk within the groups as to what kinds of interventions or activities you might be doing at the moment, exchanging that with others, or potentially what you'd like to do. And then we could come back into the room and just kind of share some ideas and bounce those off Rob.
Rachel, excuse me.
Oh.
Sorry. This is just a 30-minute free webinar, not the
Oh,
COP.
it's a free. I'm thinking it's the community of practice. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. I apologize, everyone. You're probably all going, really? I've got to get back to work. Sorry about that. Well, we'll have to save that for another time, Rob. And
Can I just say there, Rachel, though, yeah, that even though I guess maybe the opportunity today to break out into those groups, I would love it if people have got questions and they want to bounce them off me.
That sounds great. I've got some more comments there. I'd like to know how we can encourage providers building those multi-level story buildings as care homes to incorporate more nature. I haven't seen many who do this. And others saying thank you so much. My apologies again for the misunderstanding as to which format this one was. Marnie's popped in here. Rob's so a contact point, obviously to us, so that we can channel those back to Rob. So just our admin email address. And once again, huge thanks to you, Rob, for giving us this time for this free webinar. And hope those who can join Rob to participate in that more deeper dive online as well on that event that's happening as well. So we thank you so much, and may you all get a chance to get out into nature at some stage later today.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much for the opportunity. If you've got any questions, please send them through. I'd love to receive them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who joined us. Have a beautiful rest of your day.